Good evening, everyone. Hi. So, we are back with a new gate session. Yesterday, we had a lovely session with you all on gate. We got many requests from your side to do more MSQs. Don't worry, we will do lots of MSQs. In the further gate sessions, we will be doing lots and lots of MSQs. Okay, so don't worry at all, right? So, welcome to this session. And today also I have brought to you many new questions for more rigorous practice. All right, so are you all ready? Welcome, welcome. Good evening. So let's start then, shall we? Good evening. Okay. Good evening. Right. So let's start. Yes. Let me. Hi, good evening. So let me start by sharing my screen. Yes. I hope all of you can see my screen now, right? Yes. So welcome to session number 2 of GATE. This is our second session of GATE. All right. Good evening. So please like the session, everyone. And now let us start. Okay? Ready? Chalo. Which among the following is wrong about the movement of Romanticism? So here I have given you 4 statements about the movement of Romanticism, and one of them is wrong. You tell me which statement here is wrong. Romanticism as a literary movement lasted from 1798 with the publication of lyrical ballads to sometime between the passage of first Reform Bill of 1832 and the death of Wordsworth in 1850. So the first statement talks about the timeline of this movement of Romanticism, right? With political revolution and on the continent and the industrial revolution underway, this period witnessed the breakdown of rigid ideas about the structure and purpose of society and the known world. During this period, emphasis shifted to the importance of the rules and decorum and traditions of the church and imitation of the classical masters. Lastly, the concept of the sublime, which refers to a thrilling emotional experience that combines awe, magnificence, and horror, was reintroduced. Tell me, which statement here is wrong about the movement of Romanticism? Tell me. Correct. Correct. Here, statement 3 or ABC, C is wrong. Because it was in the neoclassical period that there was an emerging importance on the rules and decorum and imitation of the classical masters. So here statement number 3 or statement C is wrong about the movement of Romanticism. All right, now let's move on to the next question. Words can be like X-rays. If you use them properly, they will go through anything. You read and you are pierced. This is a quote from which work? Tell me. This is a quote from which work? This is a quote from which work? This is a quote from Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Courts will be asked. So it's high time that all of the GATE aspirants, all of you who are GATE aspirants, must start studying these things from now. So we find this line from Aldous Huxley's dystopian novel Brave New World, that words can be like x-rays if you use them properly. They will go through anything. You read and you are pierced. Okay? Right. Next. Choose the correct statements. Here again, you have quite a big question. Here you have to choose the correct statements. The Big Heart is a novel in 1945 by Mulk Raj Anand. The theme of the novel is the conflict between hereditary coppersmiths and the capitalists. It is a novel about a village of artisans in Amritsar district in the early 1940s whose livelihood is destroyed by the establishment of a factory producing copper utensils. Janaki is a Gandhian who also believes in modernity and efficiency of machines. Here, you have to choose the correct statements. Here, all the statements are about the novel The Big Heart by Mulk Raj Anand. Yes, it is absolutely all except D. D is wrong. The last statement that Janki is a Gandhian who sympathizes with the coppersmiths but also believes in modernity and efficiency of machines, it's wrong because it was Ananta. The protagonist Ananta was a Gandhian who sympathized with the coppersmiths but also believed in modernity and efficiency of machines. And Janki was his mistress. Janki was the mistress of Ananta. Janki was the mistress of Ananta, the protagonist. Here, this title, The Big Heart, refers to Ananta, the protagonist, right? Who came to Amritsar when this conflict was going on. And though he sympathized with these coppersmiths who lost their jobs, he also believed in this coming of industrial modernity. And Janaki was his mistress who was dying of tuberculosis. Right? Yes. Janaki was his mistress who was dying of tuberculosis. So the last statement is wrong because it was Ananta who is a Gandhian who sympathized with the coppersmiths but also believed in the industrial modernity. Okay, so please read about these novels in detail. If you are a GATE aspirant, please read about these novels in great details. Okay, next. Structuralism sees itself as a science of mankind and works to uncover all of the structures that underlie all the things that humans do, think, perceive, and feel in mathematics, biology, linguistics, religion, psychology, and literature. Is it true or false that structuralism is about uncovering the underlying structures of all institutions, be it the society or our culture or literature? Structuralism is about uncovering the underlying structures. It's about laying bare the fundamental units of a system. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Okay, next. So before we proceed, if you want to join our GATE crash course, you can join us. Okay, if you are aiming to sit for this exam, you can join us. Okay, GATE crash course. All right. Now let's move on to the Next question. In his seminal essay, The Death of the Author, who declared that meaning is not something placed into the text by its creator, but something produced by readers interacting with linguistic and cultural codes? Fill in the blank question, tell me. It was obviously a Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes, correct. Through Derrida's critique, structuralism gave way to post-structuralism, a mode of thought that embraces instability, ambiguity, and multiplicity, where Saussure sought structure and Barthes sought system. Derrida revealed perpetual play, an endless movement of meaning that defines closure. In his view, language is not a transparent medium through which we express thought, but a restless field where thought itself is produced and undone. Every text, Derrida reminds us, contains within it the seeds of its own deconstruction, the contradictions that unravel its claims to coherence. Is this true? Is it true that through Derrida's critique, structuralism gave way to post-structuralism? Post-structuralism is a mode of thought. It's a thought pattern which embraces instability, ambiguity, and multiplicity. True, true, absolutely true. Post-structuralism reacted to the flaws of structuralism. Post-structuralism reacted against the flaws of structuralism. Okay, next. In elementary structures, Dash examined kinship systems from a structural point of view and demonstrated how apparently different social organizations were different permutations of a few basic kinship structures. Tell me, who did a structural analysis of kinship structures, means human relations? Who did a structural analysis of human relations? It was obviously Claude Lévi-Strauss, an anthropologist. He taught us that the structures which we can use to study language, the rules, the systems which can be used to study the structures of language, those same rules can be applied to study the structures of kinship. The rules which study the structures of language can also study the structures of human relationships. Okay, right. Myth. Ayyo. Okay, it's a typo. Okay. So the question was actually which type or what? Here the question was about myth criticism. That myth criticism focuses on identifying and analyzing the recurring archetypes, symbols, and universal patterns found in literature that are rooted in mythology, folklore, and religion, revealing deeper meanings connected to the collective human unconscious and shared cultural experiences. It examines how these timeless motifs shape characters, plots, and themes across different stories and cultures to understand fundamental aspects of the human condition. So tell me, who talked about the concept of collective unconscious, which inspired the movement of myth criticism? Who talked about the concept of collective unconscious, which inspired the movement of myth criticism? It was Carl Jung. Carl Jung's concept of collective unconscious. Carl Jung's concept of collective unconscious had inspired the movement of myth criticism. Myth criticism, which reveals deeper meanings connected to the collective human unconscious and shared cultural experiences. Okay? Right. Very good. Northrop Frye in Anatomy of Criticism has compared a romance to which season? Northrop Frye in Anatomy of Criticism has compared a romance to which season? Tell me. Northrop Frye in Anatomy of Criticism has compared a romance to summer. He compared a romance to summer. All right. Yes. Next. In literary theory, dash, introduced by Claude Lévi-Strauss, refers to creating new meanings by creatively repurposing and recombining pre-existing materials, ideas, myths, or texts, much like a handyman uses found objects. It's a process of resignification where established cultural signs are rearranged, highlighting hybridity and the construction of meaning from available fragments. Seen in texts like T.S. Eliot's The Westland. Yes. So it is bricolage. In theory, bricolage introduced by Claude Lévi-Strauss refers to creating new meanings by creatively repurposing and recombining pre-existing materials, ideas, myths, or texts, like a handyman or bricolier. Bricolier uses found objects. Claude Lévi-Strauss talked about the bricolier and the engineer. The bricolier and the engineer. And he talked about the savage mind. Savage mind. Right? Yes. In Dash, Roland Barthes argues that conventions inform both language and style, rendering neither purely creative. Instead, form, or what Barthes calls a writing, is the unique and creative act. However, a writer's form is vulnerable to becoming a convention once it has been made available to the public. This means that creativity is an ongoing process of continuous change and reaction. Yes, he talked about this in Writing Degree Zero. Writing Degree Zero, correct. Published in 1953, Writing Degree Zero marks Barthes' entry into post-war French intellectual life. It was written in the aftermath of World War II, a time when France was rethinking its cultural and political identity. Literature, once tied to national prestige and moral seriousness, was under scrutiny for its relationship to ideology and trauma. And this book, Writing Degree Zero by Barthes, it emerged within a Marxist and existentialist milieu dominated by figures like Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir. Sartre's What is Literature had argued that writing is always a form of political engagement, a deliberate act of communication within history. Barthes, while influenced by Sartre's call for a responsibility, took a more linguistic and formalistic turn. He asked not just what writers say, but how writing itself, the very texture of style, language, and form, shapes meaning and ideology. Right? And he talked about the style of zero degree of writing. Zero degree of writing. Okay? Yes. He calls the degree zero of writing an ideal of neutrality, A writing which is stripped of ornament and ideology, refusing both the pomp of classicism and the emotional excess of romanticism. This colorless style would be transparent, objective, and human, writing as pure form rather than rhetoric. That's what he called the degree zero of writing. Okay, I gave you a bit of a context so that you can understand about this work. So that's all from our side for tonight. I hope you guys like the session and the questions. Please read more about these works, strengthen your concepts, your overall knowledge and vocabulary, right? And I will see you all again tomorrow at 9 p.m. at our Vallath YouTube channel. And if you guys want, you can also join our Gate English crash course, which is going on right now. And in this course, we're offering live revision sessions, topic-wise quizzes, and model tests for intensive practice. So if you are appearing for the upcoming Gate exam, you can join our Gate English crash course. We also have a regular course for GATE. Okay. Good night, everyone. Take care. I will see you all again tomorrow at 9 p.m. And do like the session before you leave. Okay.